Okay, everyone, so I should be up in your corner right now as I'm looking at this. Our next set of notes, let me go full screen for a second, is going to cover the business plan. Now, I will say this on here. I've included pretty much anything and everything when it comes to the business plan on here. But when you're crafting your business plan, and I say business really loosely because you might be crafting a plan for a school, for a company, for a nonprofit, for a freelance business, for a business plan for a person, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm using business really interchangeably here. It could be a corporation, but it need not be a corporation at all. Okay, so what I want to kind of go through is pretty much everything and anything that would be in a huge business plan. When you're crafting your own business plans for this week, you can pick and choose which parts that you want to address. For example, you don't need, unless you really want to, Catherine, I know you're a math major, so you might want to do this more. She might want to go more into the financials and sort of the numbers side, but you do not have to do that if you do not want to. And anything that you use here, obviously will be fictitious. So you'll be making up either fake numbers or anything like that that you would use on corresponding on that side. But for everyone, if you don't want to, you don't have to cover a financial side because that's, I'm more concerned with the writing aspect and compiling the information and that kind of part. But I don't want to leave it out because certainly, financials are a really big part of any sort of business plan that you're going to work with. So I'll go through the different parts and then you'll see which ones that you definitely want to keep in the business plan. And then the other parts that you might want to just sort of play with and be a little bit more creative with kind of around. So I'm going to hide myself here and go through talking about creating the business plan. So basically what this business plan is, it helps you kind of evaluate whether or not a new business is feasible. Could it work? Could an idea work in a very objective, critical, and very important, unemotional way? So this can really come from a good perspective, or it can enhance an idea or concept that's already into play. So when you're crafting your own business plans for this week, you can kind of take on both different perspectives here if you want to tackle a new idea or you want to enhance a new idea too. You're most welcome to make up your own type of business or nonprofit or organization as well if you feel like you want to take that challenge. So when we talk about the marketing part of it, like is there a market? How much can you sell? How believable is that? We talk about management, like does the management team actually have a skill? Financials, can the business make a profit is also really important. And so a business plan definitely has this sort of, it's like a great in-depth outline to help you in running the business. And it absolutely improves your probability of success because like anything, if you go into anything blindly with no sort of game plan, it's really hard to kind of work off that. I like it too because it really very much, I'm going to highlight this here, it helps very much identify opportunities and avoid mistakes. It helps you develop production, administrative, and marketing plans. It helps you create budgets and projections to show financial outcomes. And those are all really important. Also, this is such a great communication tool. It's such a great written communication tool. It serves as a selling tool and provides the basis for your financial proposal and just ideas in general. It helps you figure out if you do need and what type of money you need. It helps you think about the future. It helps you think about sort of, hey, how much money do I have coming in? Or how can I sort of show liquidity and repay people who invest in this? And so who will use the plan? Well, if you won't use the plan to raise money, then you can also have your plan be internal and it could be less formal. So it could be something that you do within your own organization or company or school, nonprofit group, whatever it might be. So you might even at some point present a plan to outside people who are coming in that might invest in whatever it is that you're looking at. So be sure to know that whatever you're asking of your audience, you want to sort of, think about that when you're writing, know who you're writing to. I always say play devil's advocate or have someone do it for you as you prepare your business case. Like think about how it's going to be perceived by people reading it, communicating clearly and concisely. So in your summary, we often call this sort of an executive summary. You always sort of start, it's basically like outlining the main issues before stating the facts of your business plan. If your audience is going to pay attention to numbers or research, then you got to tell them why those things are important. So It's not about including a spreadsheet or a bunch of numbers and being like, wow, look at figure A and then figure B. Like in any part of writing, it's all about the conciseness and clarity and grabbing their attention right off the bat, particularly if you are choosing to use numbers. And words matter. You can very much often state the same thing from different perspectives. So I think that's really important. And of course, that ending, closing powerfully. What's your call to action? Why are you writing this plan? What are you highlighting from it? So a typical plan has 3 sections. You can look at some of the examples that I've included online, but I didn't want to include a ton. I don't want you to feel like you have to have that format to them. Typically, the first section is a written section. This describes like the management and marketing and planning materials of the business. I would say definitely gives a good outline to what's going on. Section 2, if you wish to have as specific or not specific, some financial projections. It could be as simple as like, our goal is to make this amount of money by this, or our goal is to have this amount of employees by this and pay them this. Or it could be way more detailed. Go have fun, my numbers people, with that. Section 3 is a lot of supplemental information that you feel like someone would need to understand when they're reading or listening to your plan. So this is the part where I would put in my research. This is the part where I would put in my graphs. This is the part where I would put in any pictures or just anything else, links, anything that could help someone see the value in what I'm doing. And you can even add a short executive summary at the beginning or end of a more complex business plan if you need to add on to some of these parts. Now, the only way you can really ruin a business plan, and I say this in terms of the writing and the presentation of it, and I've read some of these, when people just have totally outdated information, whether it's coming on the financial side or whether it's coming on like the just explaining side, everything needs to be as current and updated as you possibly can. Of course, you can reference and you should reference research from the past, but you shouldn't be making up past numbers. That goes along with any substantiated assumptions can hurt a business plan. Too much what I call blue sky, failing to kind of see the pitfalls. We've always talked about this in writing. A good writer always acknowledges all sides of the arguments, even the ones that they don't agree with. Well, the same thing here when you're writing a business plan. You don't want too much fluff in there. You want to acknowledge that things can go wrong, and here's how you would tackle and handle any challenges that would come up with that. Also, what I found, anyone who doesn't understand financial information when you're reading, that could be really hard. And just being not specific and not detailing your strategies, being way too general, like, oh, well, we'll give world-class service and the lowest price. Well, okay, that sounds amazing. However, how are you going to go about that? Because that's a really hard claim to kind of keep. I think it's especially important, and this is getting into the money side for the business plan, that it's prepared for for a lender. You want to see no indication that the owner has anything at stake. Any unwillingness to personally guarantee any loans, that's a red flag. And then too much focus also on being unrealistic, saying like, well, we're going to borrow $500,000. Okay, well, how are you going to repay that plus more money back later on? Excuse me, that is something just that it's not feasible to do right away. Hence, that goes with too much focus on collateral. And that's all sort of the money logistics and the problems that might come up, but you totally should be aware of that. So, when putting it together here, I'll kind of put this up so you can see it here. But basically, a nice cover sheet with your business name, either a real business that you're looking at or a fake or made up one, an address, information, your table of contents, and then section 1, what is the business? How would you describe it? Are there any products or services? And how would you analyze it on the market? And what sort of plan would you give? So a plan could be something like your proposed, sort of initiatives for the future. Where is your place located? Do you have any competitors? How do you plan on handling management and operations and personnel along the way? And do you have any loan or investments that are kind of coming about that you want to mention too? In your next section, you can mention, and this, like I said, is optional, how deep you want to go with this, any financial data, any statements that you want to make up, any cash flow, how you're just trying to break even and survive, or how you want to use money. And then your last section is any of your supporting documents. So in a real business, they would include a lot of financials in here. But like I said, when I'm making business plans or I'm encouraging students to practice business plans, I also say, here's a great section to say, well, here's an example of another company and what they did. Or here's some research that I found online through this scholarly journal that supports this. And then you can, of course, include other pieces like that too. I think it's really important to focus on the description of the business. I think that these are some good ways to provide overview and practice your writing. I love the idea of what we call the elevator test. Can you explain your basic business idea in the time it takes to get from the lobby to a 5th floor of somewhere? And that's not with a lot of stops along the way. So I think that's a great kind of mode to sort of practice with. And again, I have some basic questions here. You do not have to feel like you have to answer all of these, but you can certainly touch upon some of them. Same thing, some existing, if you're playing with a new business or if you want to play with something that's already out there. When you're thinking about products and services, here's some outlines, if you're offering, and don't forget, it doesn't have to be a physical product. It could be something technology-based, or a product could literally mean a service that you're offering as a business too. Basic questions to help you in this part. And finally, with your market analysis, what do you want to look at? Different challenges? How much research do you want to look at? How relevant do you want to make it to the existing forecasts? And some questions to go with here. Excuse me, I'm talking a lot, and you all know I never talk this much in class. And so some questions to follow up. And again, these are just there to help you with your marketing plan. So I like to say this is the highlights, what are you selling? What benefits do you provide? What's your service? And things like that. And then the final sections on location, that's easy enough to kind of fill in. Who's your competition? Questions about that. And then to follow with management and operations, if you have other people working in that, if you're seeking financing, and some questions to follow after that too. So, and flip back to me here. Like I said, I don't want to give you a ton of examples because I don't want you to feel like you have to prescribe to a method. You can be very creative with these, and I want you to be and have fun with it too, because I think you can see from this class, it's not solely business in a very, uncreative, unmotivated kind of area. You have lots of room for playing and improving here, practicing your communication skills and practicing your writing skills too. So this is just a very brief outline of that, but I'll have some more sources. And of course, ask me lots of questions because I can't wait to read these and can't wait to see what you've all come up with.